It's strange. Some people can hear about war and move on with their day like nothing happened. But others can't. Because when they think about war, it doesn't feel distant to them. What stays in their mind is something much heavier. They hate the idea that conflict is still seen as something that can't be resolved without violence. They hate that people are dying in situations they never chose to be part of. They hate that entire lives can be destroyed in moments, while the ones responsible are nowhere near the consequences. And maybe the most disturbing part, they hate that some people can actually find satisfaction in the suffering or death of others. That's the part that doesn't make sense to them. And if you've ever felt that kind of discomfort when thinking about war, then you're probably not reacting to it the same way most people do. Because psychologically, people who strongly hate war don't all think the same way. In fact, they usually fall into three very different types, and each one sees this reality in a completely different way. The first type is the person who simply cannot accept war as something normal. No matter how many times they hear people say things like, "This is how the world works," or "conflict is inevitable," it never actually makes sense to them. They don't just dislike war, they reject the idea behind it. To them, it feels wrong on a fundamental level that humans, after all this progress, still solve problems by destroying each other. It creates a kind of internal frustration because they're constantly faced with a reality that doesn't match what they believe should be possible. When they hear people talk about war in a casual or strategic way, it bothers them more than it should, because they don't understand how others can accept it so easily. In their mind, if something is clearly destructive and avoidable, then it shouldn't be treated as normal, no matter how often it happens. And that's why their reaction is different. They don't just hate war for what it does, they hate the fact that the world has learned to live with it. The second type is what you could call the peace seeker. This is someone who is naturally drawn to calm environments. They prefer quiet, stability, and emotional balance, and they actively avoid anything that feels aggressive or chaotic. For them, war is not just something they disagree with. It's something they struggle to even watch. They don't like seeing violence even through a screen. News about war, images of destruction, or scenes of conflict don't just inform them. They affect their mood almost instantly. It creates tension, frustration, and sometimes even anger because it goes completely against the kind of world they try to live in. What makes this type different is that their reaction is not based on analysis or deep questioning. It's immediate and emotional. Violence in any form feels overwhelming to them. So instead of engaging with it, they often choose to step away. They avoid the news, skip certain conversations, and protect their mental space as much as possible. But that doesn't mean they don't care. In fact, the reason they avoid it is because it affects them too much. They don't just hate war for what it represents. They hate the feeling it creates inside them. The third type is the one who lived it. This is not someone who learned about war through news or videos or stories. This is someone who has been close to it or carries its consequences in a personal way. Maybe they lost someone. Maybe their family was affected. Maybe they grew up hearing stories that were never supposed to be told that often. For them, war is not an idea. It's a memory. It's something that left a mark, and that mark doesn't really disappear. That's why their reaction is different from everyone else. When they hear people talking about war like it's a strategy or a debate or something to analyze, it doesn't sit right with them, because they know what it actually does. They know how it can destroy not just lives, but relationships, trust, and entire generations. They've seen how war doesn't end when the fighting stops. It continues in the way people think, the way they see each other, and the distance it creates between human beings. And that's why they hate it. War has existed for as long as humans have existed. Different times, different reasons, but the same outcome: loss, destruction, and people forced into situations they never chose. From a distance, it often gets explained with logic, strategy, and justification. But when you look closer, it becomes clear that war is not just a conflict between sides. It is a reflection of human decisions and their consequences. And no matter how much the world changes, that part remains the same. And then you start to wonder, if you look closely enough at any war, aren't they all, in the end, just humans fighting for power, fear, or survival? Now I'll leave it to you. What does war really mean to you? If this made you think different, hit subscribe. We go deeper every day. Don't forget to like the video. It helps more people find messages like this. And if you want to connect with people who think like you, join our Discord community. The link's in the description. Reverse Hub isn't just a channel. It's a mindset